Hello, my name is Professor Stuart Harding, and I'm going to be going through with you in this short presentation how the City of London Dental School is going to help you develop your clinical competencies through our online teaching programs. Now, as you may be aware, the City of London Dental School is primarily online, but has a physical presence at our dental campus in Highgate. Now, I'm going to be talking to you about remote synchronous supervision with our concept of at-home hands-on training. This presentation explains the delivery of clinical training by remote synchronous supervision, and at the end of it, we hope that you'll understand how you can develop your clinical competencies while staying at home and working from your own practices. Now, again, you may be aware that we deliver a number of different MSc programs covering a number of specialities. Each one of these specialities demands and requires its own set of individual competencies. So although this lecture gives you a general overview of how we intend to deliver clinical competency training online, obviously there will be some slight variation depending on the type of speciality training you're undertaking. Right, so what's the goal of our training? Well, we want to deliver clinical competencies that are put into immediate clinical practice. There is no point in you learning new skills and clinical abilities if they're not put into practice immediately and regularly. Otherwise, you'll lose the competency or never develop it in the first place. So our goal for this training is that you are quickly starting to treat your own practice patients. We do not have our own clinics, and for this we rely on your clinics. And also, it's important that you have a patient base that requires the treatment, or that you start to develop a patient base for, let's say, orthodontics. Again, there's very little point in learning orthodontics if you don't have the patients on which to deliver the practice and the skills that you've learned. Right, so we are 95% delivered online. And this is supported by at least 5% remote synchronous supervision with hands-on at-home training. Now, during your program, as well as watching pre-recorded on-demand educational material and lectures, we call it NetEd, this is also supported by an academic coach who at regular sessions will be in touch with you to discuss the content of the pre-recorded material which you will have watched, and to also give you advice on certain elements or parts of the presentation that you didn't quite understand. But in addition to these regular seminars, you will also have the opportunity to discuss one-on-one cases that you've identified from within your own practice and receive a consultation, feedback and advice regarding the best way of managing the case. All this is aimed at you delivering this treatment from your own practices as quickly as possible. That is our goal. Now, each module that you'll be attending on this program has 2 workshops associated with it. These workshops can be delivered back to back or maybe spread out with a month intervening. The workshops are delivered by a process of remote synchronous supervision, which I'll explain in a little bit more detail as we go on. And they can last about 4 hours each. So, for example, our orthodontics workshop is going to be delivered in 2 evening sessions of 4 hours. And obviously this is very practical and convenient for the attendees because you're not missing time away from practice or having to spend money on overnight accommodation and travel. And these workshops are also combined and supported by lectures, some of which are live, some of which will be pre-recorded. When the module deals with a clinical speciality rather than an academic or treatment planning speciality, then obviously there needs to be some pre-training in the use of equipment and materials before you start to treat patients. So the fundamental idea of the two-day workshops is to give you simulated training and exposure to materials which you're going to be using on your patients. The other advantage of this remote synchronous training is that your dental nurses and your support staff can also attend and participate. And this is often just not possible in live events where there are space restrictions, and even more so in today's current climate. So this really is an ideal way for you to start your training through these workshops. Now, prior to the workshop, you're going to receive a kit box. It may not look exactly like this box, but in the box will be all the materials that you require in order to participate in the workshop. So, for example, if you're taking our orthodontics program, you would receive brackets, pliers, cements, models in order to work on during your workshop. If you're doing the endodontics program, your box may contain reamers and files and instruments and filling materials together with printed models of tooth that you have to root fill. As you go through the day and through the session, you will be expected to take photographs and record a log of what you've learnt, and this will be uploaded to your school account for review by your tutor, who can give you individual feedback on how you've performed on the actual day. This work will also be graded in some cases, and in others you'll just receive verbal feedback. If it's an orthodontic case, for example, and you feel you've not positioned the brackets optimally, obviously you have a chance to remove the brackets, replace them, photograph it, and submit the work within about a week. Again, as I said, it's very useful to have your nurse attend, because then she becomes familiar with the materials, with the instrumentation. The endodontic tooth that you might receive will be printed so that all the participants have exactly the same tooth and face the same challenges. And this means that when you want to compare your performance with others, you know you've had to tackle exactly the same problem. So prior to the workshop being delivered, you'll have access to your Moodle account, where you will watch information and videos detailing what is contained in the box, and also the content of the day and what will be expected of you, and what you need to bring along or pre-prepare in preparation for the course. An overview of the workshop session will also be delivered verbally via a tutorial just prior to the workshop, to ensure the whole day goes as smoothly as possible and you learn as much as possible, and time isn't wasted on problem solving technical issues that can arise. You'll also receive information on what is the best kit to buy going forwards, so that you can prepare for your own practice on patients going forward. Well, the idea of our remote clinical supervision is primarily that it's work-based. But after these clinical training workshops and events, you will identify patients, and we have a part of our website. It's an account where you upload information regarding your patients, clinical pictures, photographs, medical histories. It's in fact a complete online patient management system and notes. and your tutor has access to this, and he can give you written feedback through the system, all attached to this patient's notes. Then as you start to proceed to treat the patient, you can take pictures at varying stages. When the workshops are being delivered prior to clinical training, there may be 4 or 5 or 10 people attending the workshop all simultaneously. Obviously, you'll have the option to show via your phones what you're accomplishing and ask questions, and also share feedback with fellow participants in a live event. At the end of this process, this clinical training process, you will have compiled a number of online case logs of cases that you've actually treated, where you've put into practice what you've learned at the workshops, and you will receive feedback on these case logbooks. And as part of your actual MSc program, you'll be doing a reflective clinical practice, which will be looking at your case logbooks and giving a reflective analysis and critical appraisal of your own performance. Because competency is not about being told that you can do something or you can't do something. It's realizing for yourself what you can and cannot do and developing your own competencies. And then at the end of the day, you will always have supervisor feedback, and this feedback can occur either during the training session or maybe after the training session. If you have questions, you can send a ticket, or you can even arrange your own individual tutorial or some extra help and assistance, or any questions you feel you need answering. So I hope this has explained to you what we mean by a remote synchronous training.